to What's in the Box episodes of horror with Donna and Eric. I'm Donna,
And I'm Eric.
and today we are going to be talking about the book In the Dark by Richard Laymon, as well as a movie that Eric had found on YouTube of the book. Um,
The only
bef-
Richard Laymon based movie out
yeah,
there.
and I do want to say we are going to be heavy on the spoilers in this episode. So if you've not read the book and you want to, or you've not seen the movie and you want to, you probably want to stop watching and do that first and then come back because we're
Yeah.
going to spoil the whole thing for you. Um, so this is
And
what our fourth layman. So we did
we did Night in the Lonesome
Night,
October.
October, Body Rides, The Cellar, and this is our fourth.
Okay.
So where would you rate this book out of those four?
Out of those four,
Yeah. Like in the four that we've read, which
well,
what order would you put that in?
Night's one. I mean, gosh, it's probably fourth.
Really?
Yeah. Out of those, I don't know. We enjoyed Body Rides. It was fun for what it was. I'm trying to think. I know I liked this book a lot more um, than Cellar and all that. But after we did the Cellar reread, I felt like it was, I mean, I wasn't blown away by it, but I thought it was better than I remember it being. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. They're all close. I mean, it's all like a 1A, 1B kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for me, I would put Body Rides first, Night in the Lonesome October. I would put In the Dark third, and then The Cellar fourth for me.
yeah, and I could easily do that too. You could
Yeah,
easily put In the Dark higher. It's another one of those books where it's about nothing,
yeah,
and he somehow was able to get 500 pages done and keep you entertained the whole time, which is a skill he had. So
yeah,
I can't complain with placement. It's definitely in my side of um, enjoyable books by Layman.
yeah,
So basically, it's Layman, all of his books, and then The Lake.
yeah,
But there are some that aren't as good. I know that. I
yeah,
accept that. But this one's a fun read,
yeah.
and it had
And
been
it
long
is,
enough I didn't remember the ending, so that was fun too.
yeah. And I gotta disagree that I don't think it was about nothing. It had more something than Night in the Lonesome October.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. It's not as wild ass just circumstantial stuff, but there
Yeah,
were plenty of, I mean, it was semi orchestrated, but there were plenty of, WTF moments where you're trying to
yeah,
think, on a normal night, you wouldn't run into kind of stuff like this. Some of
yeah,
the characters that she ran into,
yeah,
it wasn't as um, extreme as Lonesome. But then if you look at when they were published, this one was published a few years before. So maybe this was the precursor. Maybe this is what gave him that
yeah,
blueprint, the idea for the next thing that he's going to do. So,
yeah.
but yeah, no, they're all tight together. I enjoyed the Cellar more this time than I did originally, which is I think what I told you that I thought it was going to be one of those that we didn't enjoy, and
Yeah,
and it did end up kind of being old hat because it wasn't near as extreme as some of the stuff that people put out now. But
yeah. Uh,
looking at
I
the '80s, it was.
yeah, I have never in my life read a more annoying main character than Jane in this book.
Yeah, Jane's all over the place. And I
Yeah,
think I mean, you almost have to, the genius of Layman, that
yeah,
he gives us this unlikable character that's not a villain, so it's not like it's one of those where we're supposed to hate him and then you kind of
yeah,
chill with them. I mean, she's just basically has an attitude the whole time,
yeah.
a really weird attitude too.
She's got an attitude, and she's kind of flaky, and she's like after I don't know if it was just something dumb in the book, but like after like two nights of this, doing these I don't know what you call scavenger hunts, I'll call them. She's like, "Oh, I'm starting to look better. Like my muscles are getting." I'm like, It's been 2 days. It's not like you've been doing 6 months of push-ups every day.
Yeah, no, that is something that, but I think that's probably because she borderline wasn't, I don't think she was as out of shape as she thought she was in her head.
Yeah,
And I think, and we're given clues, but not really given explanation. She's out coming out of a terrible relationship
yeah,
that ended horribly for her. And you could tell from some of her comments that it was an abusive, a verbally abusive, emotionally traumatic experience for her. And I think she's coming from a place where she was constantly put down for her looks and her thoughts and everything. And so that's kind of what we're reading as we're in her head for the majority of the book. In fact, I
yeah.
think it's all from her perspective. Can't think of a chapter that wasn't.
Yeah, no, it's all from her perspective.
And so, but so you kind of get this thing where she's fighting within herself to try and not to be this person that's so annoying,
Hmm.
but struggling with her identity, I think, as her own individual whatever in this story.
Yeah,
Which what makes you wonder about the Mog and
yeah,
his
Master of Games. Yeah,
whole point of it. But yeah, I could totally see how everything she did was she flipped, I mean, just back and forth between, who she liked, how she liked doing stuff, if she was going to play the game. She was constantly battling with self-doubt.
yeah,
So I guess in a way, this is, we're kind of seeing her brand, all the quests that she's put on kind of rebuild her to make her more of uh, I don't know. I won't say a better person, but maybe a more complete person. Maybe somebody that's able to stand on her own 2 feet and not need whatever that relationship was before, because it seemed like that one crippled her a little bit.
yeah. So the whole premise of the book is this librarian finds this envelope and it basically has a clue with money, and each clue would lead her to another envelope with money and another thing place she had to go or whatnot. I counted nine. I wrote them down. Um, so the first two were kind of just simple. She finds one on her desk chair at the library, and it gives her a clue which leads her up to um, Look Homeward Angel book, where the second envelope was.
And every
Uh,
time she gets an envelope, the money's doubled.
the money's doubled, yeah.
Yeah.
So she started off with 50, then the next envelope had 100. Um, and then she meets Brace, like on the way up to
He's
look for,
lurking in the library
yeah,
that's closed, so he's not
yeah,
supposed to be there.
yeah. So then, of course, I'm automatically thinking, oh, yeah, Brace has got to be the guy. And all the notes are signed MOG or Master of Games, um, whatever. So the first, like, and then, so those are the first two. The third one leads her to the college campus into this like fenced-in area where all these like statues and things are, to a statue of Crazy Horse, and she has to like climb up on the statue to find this envelope, and it's like up way on the top, and it was a
And we're
lot of
talking
fun.
like a building-sized statue too,
Yeah,
apparently.
yeah, not just like a little statue,
And
um,
she would not have found it without,
without Brace.
yeah,
Yeah. And
which
who
is
names their kid Brace,
I know it's the
anyways?
dumbest thing. I mean, we should be Bryce, right? So,
Yeah.
but I mean, this is in the '90s too, so I can't
Yeah.
imagine that anybody was named Brace, but I'm sure it's something to do with somebody he knows or something. But yeah, so without Brace, we don't have her getting the next envelope.
Yeah.
And so then the story would have ended. And I have a feeling if she would have just met him without the game and they hadn't gone to do the statue, um, I don't think she would have been in a place where she would have been able to do anything with Brace. Like
Yeah.
she would have immediately, you know, rejected any advances he might have had for her.
Yeah. Because they immediately are like best friends almost,
There's
she's
definitely
like,
they have an energy. They
yeah,
click. They're both big into books, so they have a
yeah.
love of something that they can kind of go back and forth with.
Yeah. And he's a teacher at the college, so he's an academic, so they're both kind of smart. Um, and then he decides he's gonna help her, and she decides, oh, that's okay, I'll let you help me. Um, but I believe it was after the Crazy Horse statue that she gets another note from Master of Games saying, the guy's got to go. This is
Yeah.
for you alone. So she has to do the rest of them herself.
And
Um,
so she tells him that he can't even like wait in the car. He has to wait at the house.
yeah.
And then she'll go do the thing and come back. So he's already annoyed, but he's into her enough to like let it be. Cause I mean, so far it hasn't been
Mm,
anything crazy.
yeah.
Climbing a statue is the worst thing that happened. Now she did knock some sense out of her head when she hit it going
Yeah.
up of it. So she did have a
Yeah.
little bit of an injury, but that was, user error. So there's no reason to
Mm,
think that anything terrible was going to happen, except for they decided that it was under a bridge, right?
yep.
This one's
So
under the
this,
bridge.
yeah. So the fourth one, she has to go on the bridge. The note says something like "go trolling" or something, and
That
Brace
would have
helped her.
been one that gave me pause. I think I would
Yeah.
have probably stopped
Yeah.
after the 200, but I guess you really needed to have something terrible happen to stop. So maybe you go to
Yeah.
do the bridge thing. I don't know.
Yeah. And
Also, I have a feeling they wouldn't have been like that if it was a male character.
yeah.
It felt like they were building it up for something else. So,
Yeah. And everything happens at midnight as well. So I guess that's why
yeah,
it's called In the Dark, because she has to do all these things at midnight. So she goes to the bridge, and instead of it being just, and she's by herself, and instead of it just being straightforward, grabbing the envelope and going, two homeless men, Swimp and Rail, I think were their names,
yeah.
um, found the envelope and they were reading it, and they found the money. And so she's freaking out, trying to figure out what she's going to do. And she ends up like, one of the guys, I think, runs away or falls in the water. And then she pulls him to you know, or she hits him with their flashlight. I can't remember, but he gets knocked
Yeah.
out and she thinks she killed him. So then he like vomits on her and it gets in her mouth. And that
Yeah,
was
she's
like,
trying to give CPR because she
yeah,
thinks he's dead, and then he
yeah,
pukes in her mouth. So that
yeah,
right there, that's it. That's the end.
yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
that's when she should have,
Well,
walked into the water.
he tried to assault her as well.
Sure, sure. But I'm just
Yeah,
saying she should have
yeah,
just given up on life at that moment. When a
yeah,
hobo vomits in your mouth, we're done.
yeah.
We're done right
All
there.
done. Yeah,
And so, but what's funny is she was like ready to give them the cash, just give me the note. So she's
yeah,
hooked on the game.
yeah.
She's already, I mean, the money's nice, but she wants the game. She wants to see what the next step is. So,
And she knows. So this one's going to be $400, right?
yeah.
She knows the next one will be $800. So she's like, okay, they can have the four, and I'll just go for the eight. It's you know,
All right, but she's
um,
almost raped. She's almost killed a person, and um,
a hobo vomited in her mouth.
yeah, and that's not worth $400. So,
No.
um, and so then that's when a normal person I think might have said no. But I think that's also part of what we're seeing here. We're seeing this independence. So it makes me feel like whatever she's coming from, she was very controlled because she does feel like because anytime Brace tries to talk her out of doing the game and say, "Hey, this is kind of crazy," she gets very upset
Hmm.
and almost defiant in her choice to continue.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know her well enough, so he's at least got the common sense to not be demanding anything. He's just kind of trying to suggest that she stops.
Yeah.
Which he's for. I'll tell you one thing: for as annoying as she can be, and for the wild ride we have with her, he is the steady hand
Yep.
on. And so without him, I think she would have met a couple of. I think we wouldn't have got to the end of the story.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So then he helps her when it comes to the fifth one. It said something about paradise, and she had two options. There was a bar,
mhm.
and then there was a cemetery, and she was like, "Oh, it's got to be the bar." And it said something about go see Babe or something like that.
Yeah,
Um, so she goes to the bar, and she meets these quirky characters in the bar. And there happens to be a guy that works there or that's there named Babe, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm Mog. I have your envelope." And they go outside, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I was just,
he just didn't want his wife to get upset
yeah."
because
He's
she
like,
was
"I,
working at the bar too.
yeah," and she thought he had this person's money. So then she ends up going to the cemetery because she realizes the bar is the wrong place.
It's kind of a
Um,
rundown biker bar in the middle of the worst part of town too. So it
yeah,
kind of fits what she
yeah,
thought it would be. But so she's dressed up like a librarian. I mean, not even that. She comes across as fancy
yeah.
and with everything. The
Her
way
and
they
her
just
culottes. She wore a lot
yeah,
of culottes.
it's big in the 90s, so I
Yeah,
get it. And that and rumps. This is one of the books that definitely gives him that rump
yeah,
reputation. He used it a lot in this one.
yeah,
But yeah, so that I just got the feeling that she's kind of, if not upper crust, she was, in that world before whatever happened. So
yeah,
for her to go into this biker bar, I'm sure she stood out.
yeah. So she goes to the cemetery and she's assuming it's a grave that she has to look for, but it ends
Yeah.
up being a red, I believe it was red pickup truck, and the license plate said Babe. And she like army crawls over to it. She doesn't want anybody to see her. And there ends up being a dog, a vicious dog in there, and the envelope is taped to the inside of the windshield. Um, so she's very resourceful because she comes up with this plan and takes this like wooden plank that's in the back of the pickup truck in her belt and like opens the passenger door to let the dog out so she can jump out of the bed and go in the driver's side door. But she doesn't realize that the dog's going to come back in the passenger side door and basically
Yeah.
attacks her. And she's had this switchblade, and she ends up stabbing the dog. And the dog runs away.
Which
And
is
this
weird
is,
because I wanted to bring it up to the switchblade because she carried it in the pocket of a shirt,
yeah,
which makes no
no
sense.
sense.
And she's already stabbed her boob twice, I think, up to this point.
Hmm.
Almost cut her nipple off in the first thing because it popped open. So then she had to like tie it up. So the next time she needed it against the homeless people, it was all rubber banded up and she couldn't get to it quickly. So then this time I think she tried something different with the dog. But I'm like, man, she's a danger to herself.
Self.
Yeah, with what
Yeah.
she's using on these quests, but also the fact that she keeps doing them. But yeah, the dog gets back in and
Uh,
that I think that felt bad too though, because she ends up what stabbing the dog.
yeah. And she finds a pistol in the car in the glove box because she's looking for the keys to the truck so she can use it to get back to the wall or something to get out of the cemetery. And she sees this like she's getting out of the truck and she sees this guy carrying the dog, and I guess he's supposed to be really strong because apparently he like takes the dog and like does like this
Yeah,
and like flings the dog at her or something, which is
yeah,
at this point obviously dead.
yeah. She's climbing over the fence, so doesn't it strike the bars of the fence like
Yeah.
a fancy kind of thing? It kind of sticks on that. So um, that should have been it. That should have been the
Yeah.
end of the book.
Yeah.
So
That
I
should have
mean,
been
really,
I
honestly,
mean
if
the
you fight
end.
through the hobo vomit, if you get through that,
Yeah.
almost killing a dog and almost dying, that should have
Yeah.
ended it right there.
Yeah. So she gets back, and I think this is the point where her and Brace have a no, that was the next one.
Yeah, no,
The
they have a bit of an argument, just like he's like, you should stop, and she's like,
yeah,
I have
she's got
everything under
like
control, and I don't need you to tell
bruises.
me what to
Yeah.
do, and blah blah blah. So like a
Yeah.
normal fight. So,
Yeah.
but again, you can see this, whatever this is that we don't know about, the little bit that she's mentioned, whatever that past relationship is, it's causing her to immediately bow up to common sense from Brace
Yeah.
because she's taking it as Brace trying to control what she's doing.
Yeah.
Plus, there was $800 in that envelope. So
Yeah.
now she's looking at $1,600 and she's like, and the letter mentions the gun, I think,
Yeah.
in from the truck. So she's supposed to have taken the gun too. So now
Yeah.
she has the gun. She knows the next thing's going to require her to have a gun. So
Yeah.
that right there should have been a reason to stop too. So
Right.
that's the fun
Yeah.
part about this book is that the whole time this is one of those books that you're in the theater screaming at the screen for the people to leave and they
Yeah.
keep doing the dumb stuff. Well, she's doing the dumb stuff.
Yeah.
So
Totally doing the dumb stuff. So then the next one is she needs to go to this empty house. I think they call it like the haunted house, the ghost house.
yeah,
I
pick
think it,
something
and
like that.
it was near the cemetery, I
Yeah.
believe. Um, And so she gets in this house and she's like, okay, where is he going to hide this envelope? And so she immediately goes to the fridge. And then she's like fixated on the fridge and, oh, this really shouldn't have the door. What if kids come in here and get stuck in the fridge? So she's like figuring out a way to keep the fridge from closing completely. And she finds another note that tells her to go upstairs to the master bedroom. Um, this would be once she got up to the master bedroom, she sees a coffin
Mhm.
and eventually finds a box with a negligee in it. And the note basically tells her, set the timer for 30 minutes, lay down in the coffin with the negligee on, and take a nap, basically.
And it's a pitch black house,
Yeah.
no electricity, and it's abandoned,
Yeah.
and there's no locks on the doors or anything. Everything's wide open, and you could tell that there's been people in the house. So,
Yeah.
so there's all these things that should tell you that you need to say no and leave, which I think is a funny um, balance to how concerned she was about somebody getting in the fridge, because that's
Yeah.
normal thought. And then while normal thought's going on, she's doing all the crazy things.
Yeah.
And so it really shows the the two sides of Jane as she goes through this process. But yeah, but it's pitch black, so she doesn't think it's a big deal to strip down and put on the lingerie thing and then get into the coffin because she's right. There's no light. There's no way to see her.
Yeah.
It's completely. I mean, she has a flashlight. She turns it off though. So yeah.
Yeah. So she's in the coffin and then Brace shows up. And she's pissed off because he's not supposed to be there because Mog said don't he's
Mhm.
this is a game for two, not three. So they have a huge fight. They leave, but she ends up going back and ends
She's also pissed off though because he's telling her.
to leave.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and basically, and she takes it to this weird, like he's like, hey, you need to get out. It's not safe and stuff, and she's like calling herself like a slut and a whore and all that stuff, and trying to say
yeah,
that he's calling her that, and he's kind of calling her that, but at the same time, he's really trying to say, hey, this is the most unsafe thing I've seen a human do. You need to
yeah,
stop doing this kind of stuff,
yeah.
and then
He
she
said
is not gonna have it.
no. He said something like, um, "You don't know where to draw the line, so I'm going to draw the line for you."
Right, and
Yeah,
that's
was the
yeah.
wrong thing to say to her.
Right. I mean, that'd be the wrong thing to say, and a lot of things, like, you know what I mean? I mean, we could have been reading a whole bunch of different genres. And that would have been the line that started a lot of these books. So, but he wasn't wrong. She doesn't know
Right.
when to draw the line, and she has become just completely um, fascinated with the whole process. I think, overly fascinated. She just
Yeah.
cannot figure it out. So,
Yeah. And
but yeah, you're right. So he takes her home, and of course, she's like, I never want to see you again. I don't want to get out of here. Don't ever call me, talk to me, whatever. So he doesn't have the option to stay to cool her down.
yeah.
So I don't know why you would have thought she wouldn't go back,
Yeah.
unless he thought the game would be broken because he did that. Maybe
Yeah.
that's what he thought,
I think that's what he thought. Yeah.
which we don't. Yeah. So like we said, it's all through her point of view.
Yeah.
So it's not first person, which is cool because I'm not a big fan of first person, but it is,
Mm.
uh, all through her, the way she's experiencing everything. So, um, but yeah, like you said, she goes back,
Yeah.
which I don't know. I don't think that's the smartest thing. So,
Yeah. And it's funny uh, when we get to the next section. Well, we'll get to that and then I'll talk about this. So after that, they end up taking a break. Mog's like, for whatever reason, he doesn't send her any more notes, but he's breaking into her house and writing on her.
yeah, to let her know that it's not officially over, because
Yeah.
I guess she thought it was over because of the
Yeah.
thing, because she goes back, lays in the coffin, and then accidentally falls asleep,
And
which,
sleeps all
what?
night. Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
That shouldn't have happened. And
And
then
she
she
gets
wakes
another
up.
note and she gets more money, you
Yeah.
know. Um, but okay, so yeah, he's like, not only is he writing on her, so at first it was she woke up and her pajama shirt was open and she was written on it. But then the next night, not only is she written on, but he had flipped her over and his writing is progressively getting lower in the front, but he had flipped her over to write on her back. So how is she sleeping through this? And so the only thing I could think of is he was drugging her, but throughout the book, there's no mention of her getting drugged.
Yeah, nothing that she knows about, right?
Yeah,
And what you would think if you were getting injected that she would have come across it. Although she's got so much damage from some of the stuff, you could easily, put the injection in one of those and not worry
yeah,
about it. So, yeah, the only way to keep her, there's no way she's that deep of a sleeper. So,
yeah,
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 I didn't know either. The only other, maybe there's a slow gas leak or something. There's something
yeah,
he's doing to keep her.
yeah. And I just kept like waiting for the revelation in the book that, oh, that explains it. He's been slipping stuff into her beers because they drink a lot of beer. Um, you know,
Another classic layman trope.
yeah, everybody's having a beer. Um, so, or, he's injecting her while she's asleep with something.
And
But
I
there was
think,
just,
yeah, there's no explanation, but I think it's because it's not in anybody else's. Um, it's her story. So we
yeah,
only get what she tells us or knows about. So she
yeah,
doesn't know what's happening. She doesn't even think about it though. That's one thing I would wonder though. If somebody had written all over my body, I would want to know, how did I sleep through that?
yeah.
She doesn't even question it,
Question it. She just writes notes back to him.
which is as insane as it
Yeah.
gets. So,
And during this break, she kind of goes a little crazy because she's like writing notes to him when I'm ready. Um,
oh, we missed I think a major part. She told Brace that she didn't get a note
oh,
before she
right.
went to the haunted
Yeah.
house,
Yeah.
and that they were scheduled to meet that weekend. And the
Yes.
note was like a
That's right.
Thursday, and they were supposed to meet like Sunday.
Yeah.
So when they get the break, not only is she upset because Mog isn't giving her the things to do, but now she doesn't have the thing to look forward to, and she hopes that he calls, but he doesn't call. So then she's upset because the person that she said, "I don't want to ever see you again," actually took her at her word and didn't come back.
Yeah.
So we have these two things that are making her crazy
Yeah. And
because
then, so then she starts walking and running at night. And she runs into this weird guy. I think he said his name was Scott. And she instantly thought he was Mog because he said he was like fabulously wealthy.
yeah, rich
Um,
guy jogging late at night.
yeah, which I kind of thought too. I'm like, okay, this is cool. This would be Mog. But then he didn't know what Mog stood for. So, and he kind of was like, F you, because she didn't want to go back to his house and get paid to sleep with him. So,
Yeah, so it's kind of what was funny though is in a way it was just a regular Joe kind of holding a mirror up and showing her. I mean, this is what you're doing though. You're doing the biddings of this person for money, and it hasn't turned sexual yet, other than the stripping down in the house and stuff. But it very well could have had
mhm,
sexual things happen, and
yep,
so it's no different in actuality, between that and that. But she totally doesn't pick up on it, and the guy leaves
yep,
and all that. But I think what's funny is that she's mirroring it with the time she should be doing stuff for Mog when she
yeah.
goes out to do the run and stuff.
Yep. And then she ends up at Brace's apartment and supposedly sees him sleeping with some woman and freaks this woman out because she hides in the pool because people are coming. And then she like stares in the window and she's like dripping wet. And the lady comes over to, buck naked to close the curtains because she realized it was open a little bit. And so, of course, she thinks Brace is, you know, she's mad that Brace is with somebody, but she told him she never wanted to see him again. And she's like
Right.
calling him all kinds of names, saying he's sleeping with his students and blah, blah, blah. Um, so,
Which,
yeah,
and
yeah,
yet very well could have been.
yep,
And, but it was funny how upset she got and how jealous she was of the whole situation, which kind of shows you that she had the feelings for him, that, and maybe that she had overreacted
yeah,
for the way he was trying to help her get, away from Mog or whatever. So it's
yeah,
all just this, but it's like 4 or 5 days of just all these bad things
yeah,
happening to her that
yeah,
she didn't have the distraction of one or the other to
yeah,
keep her away from it. So it just kind of builds up and makes her a little more crazy.
yeah. So then finally, Maud gets her some more instructions, and she's supposed to go to this address and give a note to this person that answers the door. this guy Clay. And basically, the note says she's yours to do with whatever you please, until midnight.
Yeah.
And he actually turns out to pretty decent guy. They end up like he has these his like, well, you're gonna have sex with me. That's what he sent you here for. And she's like, well, that's not what the note said. The note said do anything, but it didn't say that I was gonna have sex with you. And but he turned out to be a decent human being, and they ended up just making
The
popcorn.
implications, though, it was
Yeah.
the implications. I mean, there was definitely a Always Sunny
Oh yeah. Yeah.
boat trip with the mattress, the
Yeah.
implications of being out in the ocean, but this time just being in this guy's house. So I could see easily why the guy thought, because I mean, she shows up. I can't remember how she dressed. Didn't she dress kind of funny too? Like she isn't dressed like she's going on a
Yeah,
break
she
or
dressed
something.
really nice.
Yeah, so everything. I mean, at one point he does ask her if she's a prostitute,
Yeah.
and so I think in his mind he thought it was some sort of trap,
Yeah.
because he was like, "I'm not going to do anything because I don't want to
Yeah.
get busted." Because it could have
Yeah.
easily been some sort
Yeah,
of
he
weird.
asked her if she was a cop, and then he is asked, assumed she was a prostitute or whatever. Um, and the note said something to him, said like, I'm grateful for whatever you did. I'm obviously not saying it correctly, but basically saying that Mog owes this guy some gratitude. And I was really hoping for an explanation on who Clay was,
Yeah,
but you get nothing.
nothing. Not only that, I mean, he's
Nothing.
like, he doesn't know who Mog is. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't understand it. He doesn't want anything to do with it. He tries to make her leave,
Yeah.
but she's like, I won't get my money if I leave. So then he lets her stay. Do they end up playing a game or something? Or do they just
No,
sit there?
they just
Oh, they
watched
watch a movie.
yeah, they
They
made
watch a movie.
popcorn and then watched a movie. Yeah.
And then she finally leaves, and he's like, "Come back when you're not doing this," because
Hmm.
even he realizes how insane it is. And she didn't
Yeah.
tell him everything. She just said, "Oh, I'm getting this, and I do this stuff."
Yeah.
So she left it as bare bones as she could. And the guy's like, "This is insane. I'll see you if you're interested after you're done playing, because I don't want anything to do with it."
Yeah.
And and he had the right attitude, I think.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. So when you've got someone who you're kind of close with telling you you're crazy for doing this and it's dangerous, and then you get a complete stranger telling you that you're crazy for doing this and it's dangerous, don't you think it's maybe you're a little crazy for doing this and it might be dangerous?
yeah. And at that point, though, she's so far gone, I don't think she can accept it
Yeah,
in
because
her
she's now
mind.
up to like $12,000 or something was what she
Yes.
was going to get for going to that guy's house.
Yeah, something like that. And then what was the other thing she did? Oh no, the guy admits that he was shocked himself that he didn't take advantage of whatever it
Yeah,
was, because he didn't. But I think that's because his inner voice was smart enough to tell him that it was not something to do.
something's wrong here. Don't.
And I got to tell you, it's odd to have a layman character to be that. I mean, they're throughout the books, but usually when you have these kind of stories where they meet people, random people, they're almost always insane, crazy, or terrible people.
Yeah,
We learned that with Lonesome. Every person he ran into, except for the girl,
yeah,
was and the one lady. That's
yeah,
the one lady in the house. But every on the streets when they were always
yeah,
crazy. So this was kind of and I almost feel like he did it on purpose just to have that everybody has an expectation of what's going to happen when she shows up with that note, and he flips it and gives us something completely different and lets her
yeah,
leave, and gives us a little bit of a break, but also gives us another reminder that, as we've just said, this is insane and she should quit. But of
yeah,
course, she's not going to. So
yeah. And then at some point we learned that a woman named Gail was abducted from a bookstore um in the
yeah,
mall. I don't remember at what point that's. I think she's watching the news, probably during the
it was on
break.
the news. Yeah,
Yeah. Because the next thing she's told she's going to a gala at this house on it was a weird road, Mayor Road,
yeah,
Mayr or something like that. Um, so she goes and the driveway's really long. She's having a hard time finding it. Driveway's really long, so she parks her car at the end and walks up. And she's trying to figure out. She rings the doorbell, nobody answers. So she decides to break in and she's like, "Oh, I'm getting like
Was
you
this
know,
the 1200 or was this 25?
this is the 25, yeah, or more.
25K or
Yeah,
20K or something like that,
yeah,
12,000.
yeah. And she's like, I'll just leave him a couple of hundred to fix the window. And she busts the window, but it's like there's like these dark sheets in front of the windows. And she gets in and
And they're not just hanging. It's not like dark curtains. They're done in a way that it's like sealed.
yeah.
So she
So
has,
it's
yeah, like you said, cut through it and stuff. But
yeah,
just
she
so
has to
it's that much weirder. It's so weird that it should have immediately stopped her from doing anything.
yeah. And so she ends up going upstairs because of course she's looking for her envelope. And she opens a door and there's a woman in there eating her own leg. And she's missing a leg. Her name is Linda, and apparently they don't feed her, so she has to eat her own body parts.
And she's missing multiple body parts.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, and she was she asked who else is here, and Linda goes, oh, it's me and Maggie or Margie and Sandra and Gail. And it strikes her that she's heard that name Gail before, and it happens to be the girl that got kidnapped. So she's asking, where's Gail? Where's Gail? Because she know it just happened like not too long ago. And the lady's like, oh, show me your stomach. Because she's apparently hungry and sizing her up for what kind of feast she would be.
Yeah.
Um, so I think she does show her and she tells her, oh, Gail's down the hall or something. So she goes out, she goes to the next door and she opens it, and there's Margie, who's basically just a torso and
Hmm.
is like chained up the way they did it was described. She was on kind of like some kind of swing thing.
Yeah. Kind of made me
Uh,
think of like a backpack or something hanging from the ceiling or whatever.
yeah, yeah. So we're like, okay, we've got just like this torso, and they're both clearly crazy. And then she finds Sandra, who's heavily pregnant and tied to a bed. Um, and she's like, where's Gail? Where's Gail? And she's like, I'm gonna help you. And she goes and finds Gail, who's like tied up against the wall,
Not
um,
tied, but like wired, like barbed wire.
wired. Yeah,
So it's even worse. I mean, just tied would be one thing, but it was like the way I imagined it, was she's flat against the wall, and then there's just a bunch of barbed wire kind of going across
yeah,
her,
yeah,
tied real
and
tight to the thing, so she can't move or do anything. She's just
yeah.
standing there.
And she's got duct tape, so she gets there free. And the envelope is behind Gail. And she said, "Oh, he just came like an hour ago and put me up against the wall, and the envelope was there, or it was there when I got pushed up against the wall."
And then she describes the guy, really big, I like 6'4",
Or, yep,
huge body, wearing
wearing
a
a
mask.
mask.
And
Yep,
so then you're kind of thought, oh, okay, this is probably mobbed or whatever because the
yeah,
envelope's there.
yeah. And then she said there's also three other guys that come in and assault her, and they make them go to dances down in the movie room. So apparently there's like a soundproof room downstairs.
Do you wonder if when they said the dance thing, if they had other people, or is it only these three guys with the hostages, or do you think that people were coming to the party? Because it made the way that the message was on the letter made it sound like it was a gathering of more than just the people that lived there.
Yeah.
And so that's a creepy
I
story
was
too.
I didn't really pay attention to that part. I was still kind of focusing on the torso lady.
Yeah, she was the creepiest because she's screaming, you obviously insane,
Yeah.
talking
Uh,
about eating the baby,
yeah.
and
So, yeah. So
so there
Gail
were
and yeah, Gail and Jane go and cut Sandra, who's again heavily pregnant. She's like, they're gonna eat my baby. They want to eat my baby. Um, and so
like
there's
she was kidnapped from like Phoenix.
yeah,
So
Vegas, I
she
think.
was,
Vegas,
yeah,
yeah.
wherever it was, so she hadn't been in the news it
Yeah.
locally. So that's why she'd only known about Gail. We don't know anything about the other two, I don't think. I don't think they ever
No,
mentioned where they were taken from.
no. So they go down the stairs. Finally, they can get Sandra walking, and they're naked, so they get sheets. And she like Jane cuts holes for their heads, so they're ghosts. She described it kind of like they were Halloween ghosts, if you wore a sheet for
Hmm.
a ghost costume. And she gets them out, and she decides to go back in, and she ends up having a battle with one-legged Linda.
Yeah.
And
Which
I don't,
makes you wonder if she
yeah,
had free reign of the house the whole time. That just shows you how crazy she was.
yeah. Um, and why didn't she go downstairs and warn the guys if she got free? Like,
Yeah, I
because it
guess that
wasn't,
maybe she was on her way and she came back to
yeah,
and it just turned into what it
because
turned
she was
into.
yelling, "They're getting away! They're getting away!"
Yeah.
Um, so she's in a battle with Linda. I don't think she kills Linda. I think she just like knocks her out or something.
Yeah.
Um, and Jane
I,
goes downstairs and in cold blood just kills the three guys that are watching some weird movie
they're
downstairs.
watching a Barbara Streisand movie. They're
Barbara
watching like a
Streisand.
normal movie,
Yeah,
but they're like not wearing pants, so they're kind of naked
yeah,
and different stages, and they're just eating popcorn and they got this movie blasting really loud. And yeah, no, I get it. She should.
yeah,
I mean, that's how you stop these predators. That's what
yeah,
they are. And she's got to that point and she's seen their handiwork, and so this stops them from coming, I guess. But yeah, in a way, I mean, I don't know. Maybe she thought that if they called the police, it wouldn't. I don't know what her thinking was. I mean, she did break into the house,
yeah.
um, but she was worried that they would. Oh, I think was she still upset about them killing the dog? There had to have been something else that stopped her from wanting to be. I don't know. Maybe she just killed them because they're bad people and
Yeah,
she
I
didn't get
think
them.
honestly, I think that's all it was. I think
Yeah,
that's what I remember.
but she also was worried that they would come after him again
Yeah,
and they wouldn't get away. And she didn't want to get caught by these guys.
yeah,
She
and I
definitely mentioned
think
that a couple of times.
yeah, and I think at this point is when she realizes enough is enough,
Yeah, this is too much.
and this is too much. I just killed three people, and I just saw a torso lady and a woman eating her own leg. Um, so she convinces Sandra and Gail to tell the police that it was a male, a burglar or somebody else that rescued them. She didn't want to be named. Um, she didn't want anything to be said about her involvement in it. Um,
They wanted to introduce her to her parents and stuff, and she's like, "I'm
yeah,
just going to drop you all off," which I
yeah,
get. She doesn't want to be it because she just murdered these people,
yeah,
and in her mind, they're going to find the bodies and the other two when Gail and them call. So the less they know, the better. So
yeah. Um, but come to find out, that big house burns down, and it's in the news, of course, the rescue of these two women, and
at this
um,
point, though, also when she gets home, right before they find out about the house burning down, Brace is back
yeah,
on
Brace
the
is
porch.
there. Yeah, so he's back in the picture now. And she tells them all about what happened the next day because she's like, I can't. And that's when they wake up with her. Uh, she's like screaming, I'm not going to do this anymore. And Mog breaks in. And this is what makes me think they're a drug because Bray slept through it and so did she. And he cut the word obey into her stomach.
And she had duct tape over her mouth to quiet her,
Yeah.
but yeah, you don't sleep through somebody cutting through your skin. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'd have to be something like that. Trying to think
Yeah.
if there was something else, but I guess not. I was trying to think if
No.
there was something else she did other than just declare she wasn't playing anymore.
Yeah. Nope. That was it because that's when they,
Because there was another. Oh, there was one more letter that she was supposed to go do.
yeah,
Yeah, there was another
to the
note.
pool,
Yeah,
John's pool.
and he. Oh, and she said, "I'm not going to do it." She didn't want to know, but of course, he already solved the puzzle,
Yeah.
and so. But then, yeah. So then they carved the obey into her stomach, and
Yeah. And
then they decide to leave,
yep.
which is the smart thing to do, I think.
Yeah. So they do this whole clandestine. He won't say where they're going in the house because he's like, he must be listening. Um,
And what's funny is this was the 90s, so there were some technologies that they could have been using, but it would have been nothing like today.
yeah, not at
So
all.
he comes across as very supernatural. I think
Yeah.
that's the thing that they don't want to tell us about the drugging and stuff is that it adds to the almost vampire like status of him
Yeah.
being able to do all the things he can do, except for he wouldn't have been able to get in the house because she never invited him in.
Yeah.
Unless he was one of the characters that we already met that had been in her house, which means
Yeah.
she'd have to be Bryce. So
And at this point, I'm still thinking it's Brace.
it could have been easily. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, I still in my mind, I'm like, it's him. So they go to his place, get some stuff. Um, Come to find out he didn't cheat on her. He had switched apartments with his upstairs neighbors,
Yeah.
apparently, which is kind of weird. Anyways,
I think it was because they like the pool and
they
he
like to
doesn't.
be near the pool. Yeah.
He likes to read and stuff, and it's probably quieter up there. And they were
Yeah.
right next to the pool, as
Yeah.
she demonstrated. So,
And he's like, okay, we're gonna rent a car in case we're being followed. So then they end up at this hotel. Um, and Brace is like, I'm gonna stay awake, but I'm gonna hold the gun and I'm gonna leave the light on.
isn't
And
that
sh
when they carve it? That's when they carve it, isn't it?
No,
No, or oh, I know what we're about to get to. I know what we're
yeah,
about to get to.
yeah. So
We
she's like,
watched the
all right,
movie too, so it's all blending into my head.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Um, so at the hotel, she falls asleep. She wakes up and it's dark, and
and it
she
was supposed to
knew,
be light because she told him to
and
leave the light on because she wanted to
yeah,
see him when she woke up. So we already
yeah,
know there's a problem. It's dark.
yeah. And so she goes into the bathroom, and there's blood and a letter, and it happens to be an ear in with the letter. And of course, it's Brace's ear. So she's like, okay, Mog's got him. Now, how did she sleep through him attacking Brace, getting
Yeah,
Brace out of the hotel room? Because she clearly says that there's no way they could have fit through the bathroom window, you know? And so is he
yeah.
supernatural? Who knows?
Well, and then we find out in a second though that it's that big guy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so
It's the
then we know for a fact he could have gone through the window. So
Yeah,
then you really are left with the only option being some sort of drug or supernatural. Although she could have just been exhausted. That whole ordeal had to have been
yeah,
uh,
yeah. So she goes
wiped her out,
outside for whatever. Oh, she's going to get ice for Brace's ear because she's really obsessed with preserving his ear.
which I
Um,
get.
yeah.
It's the only thing
Uh,
she
the,
has any power over at that moment, and she doesn't want to have a one-eared boyfriend, I guess.
yeah. And I can't remember, was it a hearse?
Yeah, it was like a big black hearse.
Big black hearse comes at her. She realizes it's Mog. She jumps in. He like shoves her head down and like speeds off and goes through the woods and just like dumps her out in the woods. Um,
And her head hits the car as it's going out.
yeah.
And
And she's only in a robe.
yeah,
And she's only in
so
a robe.
she's
So
unconscious and in the middle of nowhere.
yeah, she wakes up and she starts walking and she ends up getting a ride from Rhonda and
Who
another,
is an insane hillbilly woman
yeah. Um,
who's got like one brain cell apparently and ready to fight everybody kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
she's like, oh, because she says, oh, my boyfriend, did this to me, and I just need to go to the hotel and you know, get gone. So she realizes she has to go to John's pool, which is a Baptist church, the christening pool at the Baptist church. And she gets help from Babe that was at the bar. Um, and she basically is going to set a trap for Mog. And it all goes wrong.
she got another note too that said, "If you don't show up, then I'm going to kill him."
Yeah,
So that's why she wants to show up, even though
yeah,
she kind of wants to give up the game.
yeah,
But he's made the stakes higher. But he also promises that she'll get her money too, so which
yeah.
I think is kind of funny. Um, yeah, everything does go wrong though.
Everything goes wrong. So she has this big plan. She's like hidden some guns at the bottom of the pool and all over the place, in some pews. She's got like what, 6 guns hidden
Mhm.
throughout the place. Uh, and Brace, this big guy comes in with Brace and throws him on the
He's
altar and
basically dressed like S&M
S&M, yeah, leather
mask
mask
with the
and
zipper and
yeah,
leather zippers all over him. And so, I mean, obviously, she thinks he's the guy.
yeah. It totally, the way that guy was described, it totally brought me into the 8 millimeter. Like
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
kept
that
thinking
guy.
8 millimeter.
Yeah, Bane with a little bit more, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely the 8 millimeter.
Hmm.
That's such a yeah, it's a perfect analogy to what this guy looks like. Although that guy was a little more doughy. This guy
Yeah,
I pictured as more muscular.
muscular. Yeah. So this guy is like cut off his head and you get all this money, brace his head. If you don't do it, you're both gonna die. Oh, and then there's this weird guy up on a cross.
Trying to think, was that? Yeah, I'm trying to think. For some reason, why was I thinking Bryce was the guy up on the cross for a minute? But yeah, no, just a weird.
Yeah, he's on the altar.
Yeah,
So she's like, all right, I'm gonna cut off his head. But she doesn't cut off his head, of course. Um, then the battle ensues, and this guy is gonna take her down, this big guy, and
yeah. I mean, it wasn't even a contest, which I think is funny
yeah,
that she thought she'd have a shot. She should have
yeah,
been guns blazing right away.
yeah. And so when she's fighting the guy, she hears a splash, and she thinks Brace is like in the water and is drowning. And that comes into play in a little while because she ends up in the pool and she's got a gun down there and it's empty when she goes to fire it.
Yeah, she doesn't know it. She
Yeah.
thinks she's got end game. She's killing the guy. She's walking out of there, and then it clicks, and then she's
She's like, it can't be it.
SOL.
Yep. Um, so she ends up killing this guy and getting Brace out of there. And then she starts to suspect Brace because she's like, did he go in there and empty out
Yeah.
the gun? Because he was, according to her, it was just the big guy, Brace, and herself. And then she heard a splash. So the only person who could have fallen in the water was Brace, right?
At this point, had she found the other envelope, or does she find that?
She has Brace go out to the car and
Huh,
goes back in to get her stuff.
right.
So she's collecting like her guns and all that stuff. Um, and she gets the backpack and she sees another envelope that has somebody else's name on it. Ford. It says Ford because the guy's name was
Yeah, he tells her.
Bradford,
Yeah,
Crawford, Langford.
yeah, and he
Um,
tells her that they call him Ford. So we
yeah,
know that the envelope's for him. So now we know that he's part of the gang.
yeah, because she reads the note and it said something like, she's a feisty one, take her down if you can or whatever. So now she
Yeah, it was
realizes,
like, be careful. She's feisty. You
yeah,
have permission to do X, but she might not let you, or something like that.
yeah,
So you can obviously tell Mott had who he wanted to. He was hoping for one outcome.
yeah. And so now she realizes that that guy was not Mog. And now there's Mog, and she realizes the guy on the cross is coming off, and he's like described as like this pale, ghost-looking guy who's kind of insane. Um, and he kind of meets a quick end, like out
Yeah, I mean,
in
it
the
is like
woods. Yeah,
it's like we got 500 pages build up of who this guy is, and then it's like half a page to get rid of him. It's like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah. So
which life is like that way, I guess. So
yeah. So then happily ever after, Brayson and her get together. He goes to the hospital. How he explained his ear getting cut off was I was working in the garage or something and a window broke and it
he's
sliced.
trying. Yeah, he broke through a window.
He
Like he
broke
was
through a
trying
window.
to replace a window, tripped, fell through the whole thing, and it's cut him all up and cut
Yeah.
his.
And they
Yeah,
buried his ear in the backyard.
yeah,
Um, and he wanted to reuse the Tupperware. And she's like, no, thank you.
yeah. That was kind of odd too.
I'm like,
But it just
bleh.
kind of ends like this. It
Yeah.
just they kill. Well, and it's a good thing they got rid of Mog. Otherwise, it would have continued forever.
Yeah. So
But
you get no explanation of Mog at all. Like, who is he? What? Like, how many people does he got playing this game?
yeah, no,
Like,
we know of two players that we don't know
yeah,
what the other ones are doing. And
yeah,
some of those people, like Ford, they were totally bought in. They
yeah,
basically he was getting a a pass to do anything he wanted to do, and he reveled in it.
yeah,
And so there's got to be other players out there that are the
yeah,
same way that would be upset if they found out that you know the person paying him to do terrible things is no longer around because of this lady. So
yeah. So yeah, so
in a
that's
way,
the book.
it's about nothing, but it is, it is her. It's all the other stuff, but it's just so weird how it's all interweaved. At least this one has structure because it's being directed by Mog, so that
Yeah.
we have a reason. And at one point, she thought Mog was doing it so she could save those women,
Yeah.
And I think it was probably more likely he did it so that he could get rid of those three guys
Yeah.
and make sure they must have something on him or know something
He
about him.
must be players in the game too.
In a way, yeah, it could easily
Yeah.
be. And so this is an
Yeah.
easy way to get rid of it. And then he just burns the house down.
Yeah.
Now it could have been Ford that burned it down, but it would have been under orders from Mog.
Yeah.
And
So
so
I would have loved some explanation on Mog. Like, was he
this,
that guy jogging? Well, no, because the way he was described, he clearly wasn't. But like, you keep thinking that it's somebody that you're going to meet
yeah.
in the book, you know?
And this kind of falls under my you don't know everything. You
Yeah.
can't know everything. And when I do stuff. So I kind of love it. I love the fact that we don't get to know anything in the
Yeah.
middle.
I'm like, explain
You know,
it to me.
who knows? He may have had an idea to come back to this
Yeah.
later and he just
Maybe.
passed too soon.
Yeah.
So, okay, first off, my biggest complaint is this cover sucks.
Yeah.
And this is it.
Yeah.
That way, well, they have two. They have the UK version, but this is what we get. I was like, this is
Yeah.
terrible. It's not
Yeah.
even a good picture.
Yeah. I know.
I
That's,
mean,
yeah. It's,
just a girl with a flashlight, and it's so grainy, and it looks like it was taken through, a 50s camera.
yeah.
It's just so weird when you compare it to
Yeah.
all the other stuff that came out at the same time. Now
Yeah.
this is a classic UK Layman. They have that picture at the top with his name dominating the thing. So at least it's some kind of artwork.
Yeah. It's definitely reminiscent of the Body Rights cover that
Yeah.
I had because I
And
had
then
the
and
UK
Lonesome.
version. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And I like it, but I mean, it's 10 times better than the other.
Yeah.
And there's just but I'm shocked that there's nothing else.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing is the movie. If we go
Yep.
to that next
Yep.
had how I mean I get why, but I'm like it. I've seen movies done by um, Derek Stockton, Megan's husband, that are 1,000 times more professional than this movie.
Yeah.
that
It was brutal. It was mostly in black and white. The only time it was in color was when she was in the bedroom w during the period where he was coming in and writing on her. Um,
Yeah, for like 3 minutes maybe. It was kind of
yeah.
odd.
Yeah. A
And I'm
lot
sure
of
it's
the
supposed to
scenes were lit.
represent something.
Yeah. A lot of the scenes were like super dark. Like I couldn't even
They
see
weren't lit with anything but her flashlight if she had it on.
yeah.
In fact, at one point I thought I lost the visuals
Yeah. Me
because
too.
I'm
Yeah.
like I watched it on the computer and I watched it on the tablet, just trying to find a
Yeah.
format that I could
Me
get
too.
most of what was going on.
Yeah.
It's
Uh,
it's not terrible.
no, it's not.
It
The
just is done in the 2000, I think,
yeah.
2001. So
Yeah.
it's not HD.
It's not a high budget movie at all.
No, yeah. No, in fact, and they do things out of order. The dog came later than it should have, I
Yeah.
think. And I
Yeah.
thought,
So yeah, they did the clay first
yeah.
and then they did the dog.
And I thought the dog got skipped because couldn't afford the dog. I understood why. And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
they do the dog.
Yeah.
And they did a decent job of filming that where you could, it looked like she stabbed the dog and the dog ran away and stuff. But we
Yeah.
didn't get the guy swinging the dog, which is good.
Yeah. So that's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh, maybe they didn't want to put the dog in there because they couldn't do the thing and
And
they
they
didn't
also
want
couldn't
to.
find a 6'4" muscular guy to play that one character.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was a little disappointing. They got kind of just like this tall, lanky, skinny guy
Skinny dude. Yeah.
in the
Who they show drugging her.
yeah, and that's the only way. And maybe
Yeah.
that's because it explains it.
Yeah.
Hey, they show us how it goes. So
Yeah. So I was pretty impressed. I'm like, they're staying pretty on point with the challenges. Yeah, they did have the skip where they, did the cemetery with the dog a little bit later.
yeah, they
But
changed
they
the order of a few things, but it
yeah,
wasn't that bad.
it was pretty good. And the
They had to
scenes
let
with the women was pretty impressive. Um,
it
I
felt
wasn't
like what are you
Margie
gonna say?
was like in I didn't Margie was basically just a head in like a sack.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but I'm
yeah. It
sure
was
their
bad.
budget for special effects wasn't that high.
Yeah, no, everything was practical,
Yeah,
and it's one of those weird things where it's almost like he knew somebody who wanted to make a movie, and he said, "Okay, you can use my thing," and
yeah,
that's the only reason it got done. Because this isn't even remotely close to
yeah,
a what I would consider a movie that you would release for anything, really. I mean, this felt
yeah.
like a college film.
Yeah, and funny enough, the scenes in the house with the women was the most sharp, well lit
Yeah,
scenes of the whole thing.
yeah,
Um, so that was pretty interesting. And like I said, I was very impressed. I'm like, oh, they're staying pretty much on the book. Um,
yeah. But I thought,
and then the end came, and I was like, oh, what the hell?
yeah, no, but I like the ending because it gave you a
Yeah,
different idea of what was going on, and they didn't have the money to do the end of Mog, so they continue and let
yeah,
Mog
yeah.
continue the game, and it's how many did it say? Was it like 5 years later?
400 and something days later.
Okay, so a year later, year
Yeah.
plus, and
She's in like New York now.
yeah, yeah, and then she's still handing out envelopes for other people to continue their game.
Yep.
So, and then her entire body's covered in the word obey, like
Yep.
tattooed all over her. And so the question is she insane and become Mog, or is she just another? Is that she's just continuing the game and she's his pawn? You know,
Well, she's
when
just continuing the game because I think he may be training her
wait,
because
and one she had
the
an
note,
envelope herself too, right?
yeah, so she delivered an envelope and she
Yeah,
goes back to her penthouse and she gets an envelope because it's in the
yeah,
elevator waiting for her. And she takes the note out and throws the envelope of money in the room, and there's like this huge stack of envelopes. And it says, "You're coming along nicely."
yeah. So we're given the idea that she's being groomed.
Yeah. And I don't recall, maybe it was just too dark and I didn't see it, but I guess Brace kind of like
Dies,
once,
right?
yeah, he dies because the whole thing at the hotel happens, the ear and everything. And there's no battle at the church. Um, no, what happened to my picture? Anyways, I'll stop sharing. Um, so Brace dies, and then all of a sudden she's in New York, and
Yeah, it does have this kind of weird jump cut,
yeah,
and
and she's playing that weird. Brace gives her this like video game, which seems to me just somebody running with a gun.
yeah, it felt like a really poor version of Silent Hill. Like
Yeah,
maybe it was
that's what I
Silent
was
Hill.
thinking.
It might have been the
Yeah,
first one, and it's
yeah,
just her running through fog and stuff.
yeah.
And
But all in all, I thought it was a pretty entertaining movie,
hey,
pretty
it was
good.
better than that damn Christmas thing we watched.
Stop it. That was not that bad.
I mean, the
You're
special
never,
effects were better at Jack Frost. Yeah,
you're
no, it was
never
better
gonna
than
let me
that.
live that down, man.
But yeah,
But
no.
yeah,
Hey, for a movie that I found on YouTube that
yeah,
is nowhere else and probably wasn't meant to be put out there, it
yeah.
wasn't too bad.
And
And it
I don't
did.
even think it's on the YouTube channel of the people who made the movie.
No, what's hilarious is it's some guy with 30 followers. I'm like, what? Why is this here? This doesn't make any sense. But no, I was happy with it. I thought, you know
Yeah,
what, this at least followed it and it makes sense. And they
yeah,
credit Richard Laymon for a bunch of stuff as a writer and stuff. So
yeah.
it's not like
It's not the
somebody.
most horrible movie I've ever seen. I
Yeah,
gotta
yeah. I
admit.
mean, you take that screen play and you give it to some seasoned actors with a iPhone today, and I bet
Yep,
you it'd be pretty impressive.
yep.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, no, it wasn't terrible.
and they only had one homeless man instead of two.
Yeah, and he was less rapey and more just insane. So
Yeah, but he still
um,
vomited in her mouth.
yes, yes, which was very odd,
Uh,
but no, I thought they did a good job, like you said,
yeah,
and I wanted to see it. So it's one of those things I've always wanted to see, and I've never taken the time to hunt it down. So when I found it, I was like, okay,
yeah,
we're not going to get an opportunity to do one of these again. So let's
yeah.
see what it's.
I was thinking, yeah. Definitely make sure you put the link down in the description
Oh, for sure.
to the YouTube so people can check it out. Like we've said, the quality is not good, um,
I
but
mean,
it's definitely worth a watch if you're a fan of the book.
yeah,
Um,
if you, especially if you like Layman and you like and the book, you'll like the
yeah.
movie just to
The
see
o-
kind of what they thought would be and how they. I mean, this is like this has to have been a budget of nothing, so it's kind of
yeah,
interesting to see how they did pulled some of this stuff off.
yeah. The only thing I can say um, is Jane in the book was super freaking annoying. Jane in the movie was super freaking bitchy.
Yeah, she was. She was very fingernails on a chalkboard.
Yeah,
Yeah, she didn't. She didn't make it
yeah,
an easy character to root for in either one, both
yeah.
formats. And so I think it's funny though when you gave your top four of the ones we've done so far, the one that you picked is the one that was the least horror and the most kind of fantasy.
Body rights, yeah, yeah,
Although there's still elements to it. That was fun,
yeah.
but um,
And it's funny, I wasn't looking at them as horror books. I was looking at them as just books in
yeah,
general. If I was trying to rate them in order of how much horror they are, I would definitely put The Cellar first.
yeah, I think that one probably is. That one's got the most. Oh, we didn't even talk about that Easter egg. In the dark, the
Oh,
Jane
yes,
mentions that she read the thing about the Beast
The
House
Beast
that
House.
the
Yep,
book that lady put out that they reference in the Beast House, so
yep,
or in the cellar. So I thought that was cool, a little Easter egg where so it kind of gives us an idea that she knows about this universe and it's the same universe. I
yeah,
don't know if he was going to ever tie that together or just was just being playful, but I thought that was a fun little. That's something I also like that he does when because he's done it in three of the four books. He'll slide in a book that a real book that he's fond of that he probably wants more people to know about or read, and then we're kind of given the option if we want to go look it up or not.
yeah. So
Um,
does that mean we got to read Look Homeward, Angel?
oh,
And
probably
what
not.
was the other one? What was the name of the book that Brace checked out of the
Yeah, I don't
library?
remember. We'll have to look it up. But yeah,
Yeah,
I can't think of what it is. But it's for another one of those ones I think we're supposed to have read at some point,
yeah,
if we're to be considered, literary. Um,
yeah,
but we can add that
yeah,
to future readings.
yeah.
But I just thought that
But
was a fun little thing. But yeah, no, it's in my mind so far we haven't read a bad one.
nope.
The thing that I didn't like the most about the Beast House was better the second time we read it. So um, I've enjoyed all these, and they've all been totally different,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah,
always a
I
fun thing too.
yeah, I liked how this one like ramped up. Like it starts off with, at the chair, then you got to go to the bridge. And yeah, that was kind of sketchy with the homeless guys, but otherwise she was all right. And then the crazy horse statue, that was pretty okay. And then you get to the cemetery with the dog, and then it just escalates. It just keeps
Yeah,
escalating.
yeah, it's
So,
amazing to see what somebody will put up with as
right?
what they'll justify in their head for whatever it is that they're doing it for. And but yeah, no, he did a really good job initially of just really giving us the idea of how scary it is to be in a building by yourself when you're closing up.
Yeah.
The library was closed. There's not supposed to be anybody in there. She's going to go look, and then she starts to get real nervous because sometimes there are homeless people in the library. She's got to get out, and she doesn't know who this person is. Left the envelope. He could be lurking, and then she runs into Brace, and that causes But he does a really good job of everyday scary in the opening to kind of set
Yeah.
us on this path of truly terrific, terrifying things that are going to happen, horrific things. So yeah, no, it's a fun read. I another one where you're kind of you can't put it down. You're
Yeah.
going back to the well. You're enjoying it. So
Yeah. It was a little difficult for me to read because Jane was so freaking annoying. Um, but once I started to really get into it, I was like, okay, this is kind of crazy. And it's a good book. There's that age-old question, what would you do for money?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Nah, we I had to draw the line way before we got. But can you imagine if she stopped after the $50 or $100 one, and then he's carving obey into her stomach at that
Yeah.
point?
Yeah.
Totally different story. She has
Yeah.
no idea what's going on.
I mean, I would have stopped after Look Homeward Angel and realizing I had to climb up on because I'm afraid of heights.
Yeah,
So I never would have climbed up there on Crazy Horse Statue to get the envelope. I'd be like, I'm done. I'll take my
Yeah.
$100 and go. My 150.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fun mental exercise.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah,
took it as far as she could.
she did. She definitely took it almost too far. I mean, she did take it too far. She killed 3 people.
Yep, she killed 3 people. Her boyfriend lost his ear.
Yeah.
And
Actually, she
uh,
killed 5 people.
yeah, as I said, she killed a few more people, but those were
Yeah.
more self-defense.
Yeah.
And in a way, though, she also killed the 2 ladies they left behind.
Yeah, because they died in
Because
the fire.
yeah,
Yeah.
but they were kind of gone too. So they were
Yeah.
more on the side of the hostage takers, I guess.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, fun read, and um, I guess we just have to figure out what we're going to do next.
Yeah. Definitely read the book before you watch the movie. Even though we kind of spoiled the entire book and the movie, kind of. Um, but if you're going to go that route, definitely read the book first and then the movie, because I think the
You
movie
need
was
to have
good.
the reference. You have to have a
Yeah.
reference, otherwise, you're going to be like, "This is terrible."
Yeah. Yeah. If you just watch the movie and you don't know what's going on, you're like, click
Yeah,
next.
yeah. You need that
Yeah.
extra reference.
So we'll have the link to the YouTube video of the movie in the description so you can check it out. And we will see you on the next episode.
Take it easy.